Have you ever woke up in the morning and first thing you want to do is go back to bed? You want to hit the snooze for 10 more minutes, 15 more minutes, 20 more minutes, 1 more hour. That's me. It's not just getting out of bed. It could be that, you want to go to the gym after work, but you don't want to do it. You'd rather wait till tomorrow, wait till Monday. You procrastinate. You have the thought that, it's better off for you to do it at a different time. I don't know if you can relate, but what I want to do is share my experience with you in terms of thoughts. We're going to talk about thoughts, your mind, and what are thoughts, where do they come from, how useful are they actually. I work in mental health, and one of the biggest things I get from clients is that they can't control their thoughts. They keep overthinking things, and it puts them in absolute turmoil. They bite themselves for thinking certain things. And so we're going to talk about thoughts today. We're going to talk about what is it that makes you contradict your plan. Why is it that your mind seems to have a different goal from your own goal? For example, you plan on waking up at 6 today, and you planned the night before that you're going to wake up at 6 and go straight to the gym, but for some reason your mind has a different plan. As soon as you wake up, your mind wants you to stay in bed until 8 o'clock. Tomorrow's gonna come around. You can do the exercise tomorrow. I'm sure that sounds familiar with all of you. One question I need to ask you is, what if you are not your thoughts? What if you are not your mind? What does that say about who you are? What role do you play in this whole dynamic, in this whole game of life? If you're not your mind and you're not your thoughts, then who are you? Obviously, you might think about your body. Obviously, you're not your body, because language tells you my body, which means body belongs to me. My body, you're not your body. So let's take it a bit further. My mind, meaning mind belongs to someone, which means you are not your mind. So who is the owner of the mind? It's awareness, it's being, spirit, your soul is what's behind the mind. Your consciousness or awareness, these are synonymous. You can interchange them. Your mind is a tool used by your awareness, and sometimes we can forget this, and it seems to be the other way around. It appears as if your mind is in control of you, and it can be in control of you, but that's not the role. That's not how things should be. So if you're not your mind, you are the awareness, and the mind is communicating to you. Every thought you have, every belief, emotion, all of this stuff going on inside you, that is your mind giving you information. That is your mind giving you feedback. And it's important to remember that thoughts are not necessarily facts. Thoughts are not true or false. They are just feedback coming from your mind based on your beliefs, based on your perception. A good way to look at this is, imagine a car. There's the car, and then there's the driver of the car. The car will signal to the driver if there's not enough petrol, if the petrol is running out, the temperature outside. All this information gets fed back to the driver, and the driver can see the information and act accordingly. But with our mind, it's basically the same dynamic. However, the driver believes he is the car, and so if the car was to run out of fuel, petrol, diesel, whatever it is, then the driver would get stuck. They would get stuck in the car because they can't even consider the idea of getting out of the car to get help, to go and get petrol from somewhere else and walk back. They couldn't even conceive of the idea, because they believe they are the car, and they won't even move, they won't budge. So, this video is just to remind you that you are not your thoughts. Thoughts are coming from your mind. Your mind is a vehicle. The thoughts are just information being fed to you, being fed to the driver. So when the vehicle doesn't have enough food, when your body is hungry, you have a thought, I'm hungry. You didn't necessarily choose that thought. That's just your body giving you information about how much food there is inside, how much food it needs. Why do I bring this up? Why is this important? To recognize that you are not your mind, and that your mind is an information processing machine. Well, it's important to remember that, because people often have certain thoughts that they kick themselves up. They kick themselves for having certain thoughts, when in fact it's not them choosing those thoughts. And you can get entangled trying to fight fire with fire, trying to get rid of thoughts with more thoughts. You get entangled, and it can leave your mind in absolute turmoil. So that's one of the important things to remember, why that you're not your mind. Another thing is, as I said, your mind is a machine. It processes information, and your mind can get programmed through things like subliminal messaging, repetition, trauma, all these different things that can program your mind. And there are people out there, I won't mention any names, who are programming your mind subconsciously, shaping your perception through giving you certain beliefs. And those beliefs and perception, as you go through your environment, will appear as certain thoughts. And if you're not aware that you're not choosing those thoughts, you will obey your thoughts. You see them as facts. And as you obey your thoughts, you're basically a puppet to your beliefs. You're a puppet to your conditioning. And that conditioning, some of it will have come from a good place, like your family. You pick up beliefs and everything from your family, but also there's things like, there's corporations out there that don't necessarily have your best interest at heart, and they will insert certain things in your perception, your belief system, which will generate certain thoughts, which will lead to certain emotions, and ultimately will lead to certain behavior. If you think about CBT, I'm sure you know about CBT. One of the principles of CBT is there's a triangle, and within that triangle you have thoughts, you have emotions, and you have behavior. Changing any one of these can change the other part of the triangle. So if you're having certain thoughts that you can't control, you can change your behavior. So for example, you can exercise and your thinking will change, your emotions will change. And this idea is not just tied to CBT, it actually ties to some esoteric knowledge where consciousness is expressed through a triangle. Does that look familiar? So the triangle, thoughts, feelings, and actions. Consciousness is expressed through those. Anyway, I digressed a bit. So what I'm trying to say is, remember, you are not your mind, you're not your thoughts, and therefore you don't necessarily have to obey every single thought you have. You don't have to believe every thought you have. And another thing to remember, another important thing, is that you don't choose your thoughts. You don't choose to think. Just consider that for a second. Just stop for a second and think about that. You're not your thoughts. You don't choose your thoughts either. So what does that say about your experience? What does that tell you about free will? Because people have a thought, it makes them feel a certain way, and then they act according to that. Now, if the thought is not coming from you, and you're not choosing to think, and it's driving your emotions, which drives your behavior, then I hate to break it to you, but you don't have free will. It's nothing but an illusion. Free will is an illusion. Unless you recognize that you are not the mind, you are the awareness. So the illusion is that you're choosing your thoughts, but the fact is thoughts are just happening automatically. The part of you, the bit of control you have, the bit of free will that you actually have is your attention and your intention. So you can direct your attention, and that would generate thoughts based on what you're paying attention to. And if you can't pay attention, you don't have free will. It's an illusion. You're being driven by your thoughts, which came from your programming, your conditioning, which came from your childhood, your environment, your parents, your teachers, different role models that you've consumed through the media, the news pumping negative energy into you, the media overall, social media, shorts, pumping negative energy into you, which controls your perception, and you have certain thoughts and you believe you are those thoughts, you believe it's you thinking those thoughts, you feel something based on those thoughts, and you act according to those thoughts. So you're not free. If you can't pay attention, if you can't direct your attention, then you are not free. So how can you get better at paying attention to certain things? How can you get better at directing your attention? The best way to do that is mindfulness, through meditation, through learning to be in the present moment and to not get carried away by your thoughts. You can take back your power. You can live within actual free will by learning to direct your attention and paying attention to the present moment, seeing the truth for what it is, and it just is. So imagine this is the thought. Imagine this is your awareness and these are your thoughts. If there's no space between you and your thoughts, you get compelled to believe the thought, and that thought generates emotions which controls your behavior. But the more you practice mindfulness, meditation, Zen, living in the present moment, the more you practice that, the space in your mind becomes bigger. So this is you, this is your thought. And the more space you have, the more you can see that I am not that. That is what I'm looking at. Therefore, I am not it. And that gives you the choice, because you can allow thoughts to come and go. You can allow thoughts to come and go. They don't have to. You're not getting carried by them. You're not believing every single thing you think. You're not acting according to every single emotion you have. In that moment, you have choice, and choice gives you freedom. Alright, so I'm just sharing my perspective. I'm just sharing what's worked for me on my journey to self-mastery. I encourage you to start your journey to self-mastery. If you don't know where to start, visit lyricsandlife.com, where you get a free package which will help you kickstart your journey to self-mastery. Thank you for listening, and thank you for joining. My name is Tris. I'm on a mission. Peace be with you.